So welcome to Daring to Share, Connection Through Conversation. This is episode 5, and I welcome Shri Ananda, who will be sharing his take on how inspiration is guiding him through the COVID crisis up to this point. We also have Donna Fitzgerald of Volume 1, Daring to Share, Dare to Hear, and Scott DeFreitas Graff, also from Volume 1, and John DeFreitas from Volume 1. And Angela Allen of Volume 2, Deception to Truth. So we'll all be having a little time to share how inspiration is guiding us or supporting us through this pandemic. So welcome, Shri. So nice to see you.
Yeah, you as well.
We've chatted quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, and every day presents its own little challenges, and also you were just discussing with us also some positive stuff. So we're just curious to know how inspiration, which is the title of your chapter in Deception to Truth, Volume 2, and how you're using inspiration to support you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Diana. When I wrote my chapter for the book, it was interesting because what I really wrote about was how my childhood adversities and traumas inspired me to really step into all the areas that I'm passionate about. It inspired me to become a professional speaker. It inspired me to become a musician, and it inspired me to be a filmmaker. So when I wrote the chapter, and this is of course before COVID, it was really beautiful to see how adversity and trauma can inspire such big things. Well, when have we ever been in more trauma and adversity globally than right now? Right?
No kidding. Yeah, for sure.
And at first, to be honest, I found it really hard to find the inspiration of what was happening. And we've talked about in previous episodes, each of us having good and bad days and moving in and out of fear. And early on, just weeks ago when COVID first happened and we began the isolation process, I found that I was drawn to a whole bunch of conspiracy theory content, because I was really on this quest of wanting to understand what was going on. I was wanting to find the truth. So I was watching videos about, 5G networks and Bill Gates and vaccines and the origins of the coronavirus. And for 4 days, all I consumed was this like fear-based, low vibrating content. And at first it really jacked me up. And I thought, oh, well, you know what? I'm sitting at home and I'm a filmmaker, so I'm going to make a film exploring all these conspiracy theories. And I began my research and collecting all of these videos and documents. And then all of a sudden it kind of hit me that I was not doing very well. I was feeling terrible. I was in a whole bunch of fear and anxiety. And I came to the conclusion that, you know what, this isn't healthy for me. I don't want to continue pursuing this project, and I don't want to continue, or I don't want to be a part of spreading fear on the planet. So I'm not dismissing any of the things that I've watched. I don't know how much of it is true. And in this moment, that doesn't matter to me. What matters is how am I showing up every day for those that are depending on me, my kids and my partner and my tribe here. So it gave me this pivoting point where I still want to produce something that's going to contribute to the well-being of mankind, but I don't want it to be fear-based. And that's, organically, you and I and the rest of the team, we started seeing opportunities. Well, you know what? We can still do storytelling. We can still inspire people, and we can do it in a completely different direction. We can look at and explore how is this experience showing up for a variety of people, because each of us has our unique story of being at home, whether we're isolated by ourselves, whether we have children, whether we have partners. And so all of these magical stories of struggle and of beauty are unfolding, and we're beginning to capture that. So that I find really inspiring.
That is inspiring. I'm just listening to you, and I'm realizing that whole conspiracy theory stuff, it did inspire you, but it inspired you to a sort of a negative place.
Yeah.
rather than where I know inspiration, where you want inspiration to take you, which is to a really positive, creative space.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's about, and it's true, it's about really being mindful about how you want to show up within that creativity.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that, it's important for each of us to come to a realization that individually we are responsible for how we're feeling and what we want to do with that energy. Now, that doesn't mean that we need to process it by ourselves or deal with it by ourselves,
No.
but it does mean we need to have the that inner guidance to reach out to our support networks. And that's really what I've been doing. That's how I've been finding inspiration, by having conversations with all of you beautiful people, with all of the people that I love and adore and who I know love and adore me. And I find a lot of strength in that. The
Good.
other day when you and I had a beautiful conversation, I felt really good after that, just being able to process with someone who I admire and respect.
Thank you.
And what it's done now is I've almost basically disconnected from social media, because I found social media was one of my challenges. I would always kind of be drawn into the pain stories and the
Yes.
dramas and the news and the media. But I've shifted slightly. I still don't spend very much time on social media, but when I do, I seek out those good news stories.
Mm-hmm.
And there's John Krasinski. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes, he's
Anybody
great.
watches some good news?
Yes, it's good. Yeah.
I watched that like 3 times in a row, over and over, and it brought tears to my eyes, because I was feeling the kindness of humanity
Yeah.
and seeing all of these good news stories of people coming together and supporting each other and loving each other. So that's the kind of content that I want to digest now, and that's the kind of content that I want to produce.
Yeah, and I think I don't think it's like ignoring the bad stuff, because those stories, similar to our stories, are stories of where there is some trauma and adversity, but they show you the other side to it.
Yeah.
And so I agree. I think what that does is it inspires hope instead of that fear that we've all had. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It's like you feel the reality of it, but then you see the hope within how it can turn out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Shri. Anything else you want to add?
I think the only other piece I would add is just to what I was just saying about how each of us needs to be responsible. So reaching out to our supports is probably one of the key areas where we can find some inspiration and some solace. But there's other things. Each of us are going to find our own way. So whether it's spending a little bit of time in nature, maybe that's what inspires you, or playing a musical instrument, or listening to a musical piece, or cooking and baking. There's all of these things that we can find inspiration in. And so I think it's just up to each of us to explore and find what are those ones that work best for us.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you for that, because I think that when I was doing the journaling workshop on Saturday morning with the women, we talked a lot about that and the science part of that, which is the free flow way of thinking using the right side of your brain. And a few of them said, well, I don't know how to get there. Like, how do I get there? Because I'm always thinking logically, and what can I do? My to-do list, and rather than, how can I get to that place that everybody talks about, which is that creative side of your brain. And it's not about actually being creative necessarily. It's about thinking creatively. So, and I was just saying that yesterday I spent 6 hours doing spring cleaning in my house, and it inspired me in a lot of ways. I felt very purposeful, and it fulfilled me because I was getting something done that felt good. I was using my body, so it was physical for me too. It was like a workout for me. So it's like, but it also put me into that free flow way of thinking. So it's like you're saying, the cooking and the gardening and walking, it kind of, if I can use like a term, it allows you to let your mind wander. And when
Yeah.
you allow your mind to wander, it creates inspiration and creative thinking. And I'm
Absolutely.
telling you, I came up with at least 5 more programs that we can do during the share. Like it just keeps coming. Like I can't stop. And books and just all kinds of things. Not that I'm going to do them all, but I'm just saying it puts you into that free flow way of thinking, and it's a distraction. So it takes me away from all of that stuff that you're talking about, you know, the social media, the bad stuff, and the news. And there are some times when I don't remember that we're in COVID. So whether that's because I'm just getting used to it, and it's the new normal, as we say, or maybe it's just because I'm doing more things that distract me from it, and that inspires me to move to that free flow creative way of being.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Shri.
You're welcome.
Who wants to go next? Donna?
Inspiration. I'm finding inspiration actually with, as I said, the exercise group that I am now doing online. So they've had to change their whole gym atmosphere. So that's inspiring to me that they've, putting this together, and then we're getting back to doing these programs and feeling it's feeding my emotional self and my physical body as well.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
I feel like I'm connecting because I see familiar people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm inspired every day when I go outside. I just, grocery store people are just, the clerks, and they're friendly and they're doing what they can. I just find life is inspiring. And sometimes I feel like people must think like I live in a different universe because I'm so grounded, but it's taken a long time to get here, to be in this kind of grounding. And I'm inspired when I write. And for the last 2 months, through my journaling, I've started this, doing my morning reflections. And there's a lot coming out of that. And that's, for me, that's my voice. So that's what I get. I'm inspired to use my voice through my writing. It's just how I can express myself because I am so quiet by nature.
Mm-hmm. Well, it inspires that free flow way of thinking.
Yeah, it's my voice, and
yes, it inspires you to speak your truth.
Yeah.
To yourself. Yeah. It's like you've
myself,
always called it Conversations with My Soul, which I love. I used that on Saturday. I stole it because it's just so true, right? You're having a conversation with your soul, so it can only be truthful and honest. Like,
and that's how I'm showing up. And if I can be just my authentic self, then I'm going to help whoever I can. Even in my presence of being just quiet. If they're in chaos, then hopefully they can feel a little more calm when we leave.
I love that thought. That's part of being authentic, is actually not just to be inspired, but to model inspiration.
Yeah.
And so however that shows up within each of us, I understand that for you, because you do inspire me that way. You always have. Your sense of calm has always inspired me to move more towards that, because I know it serves me well. When I'm not in balance, then I have more chaos than calm. So you've always been an inspiration to me that way. You're welcome. And I think I know that that's a big part of when we talk about being authentic. It's about showing up in that way, that you're modeling it just by your way of being, which was,
I can't be any other way. Yeah, I'm just, this is who I am, and I've learned to be this way and not feel like I'm being judged for being this way. This is just me. And
you thinking that you might be judged is just your inner critic, because honestly,
that was, it's been a process to get to this point where you feel that kind of inspiration just to be who you are.
Yes. Yeah, it's very good. Thank you. And you look lovely, by the way. Yeah. We were talking before we started recording that we both decided in the mornings to get up and get showered and get dressed and be ready for the day, because it makes us feel better.
Yeah.
Thanks, Donna.
You're welcome.
Scott?
Hi.
Are you being inspired these days?
Yeah, I think so. With that expression, necessity is the mother of invention. So, I've been connecting with people and, looking at those projects that require me to actually sit down in one spot and do things, because now I can sit down in one spot and do things. And, it's funny you talk about, showering and getting dressed every day, because I've made a point of that. just for my own sake. And this morning, John and I were having our coffee, and he's like, "Oh, we're taping today. I better shave."
I don't want to set an expectation with that, by the way. Whatever makes you feel good, you can do.
Well, I think for all of us, like for me, getting through the day, I need some sort of structure, even if it's minute. And that's showering and getting dressed and putting jeans on instead of another pair of sweatpants or pajama pants. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm talking about for myself. Getting the house cleaned up and organized. We've had some great meals this week. Because of course everything there is to spend money on right now is food. So why not? But
and the takeout costs more money than cooking, and you probably get a nicer meal if you cook it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to say that we haven't done some takeout, but
I did too.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about being kind to yourself, I think, in a lot of ways. And of course that can get a little overly permissive sometimes, I think.
Well,
the jelly beans.
We had that conversation this morning on the brunch call with my son and the family, because we were actually discussing the fact that restaurants are open, and are they actually essential? Because they're there's a mindset that they're actually not, because the grocery stores are essential. And there's talk about, how come the restaurants get to make money and other entrepreneurs don't? Because they're not deemed essential. So that's a whole other interesting topic that I got into this morning.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that would be interesting. But yeah, if we want to keep our local economies going, and if we want to, have these resources and these businesses around when we're through this, then we need to support them along the way. Whatever that looks like. I have a friend who's a retailer. She's moved her entire business online.
Well, because she has to, because she's not deemed essential, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Then there's other people in Qualicum who don't have essential businesses but are doing curbside service.
Oh.
You can pick, order something, pay with your credit card, and then they'll run it out to your car between this hour and this hour.
Yeah, it's a great idea. So they've been inspired to be creative that way.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting to see other people's inspiration and other people's creativity.
Yeah.
The other night, John and I were watching a movie, and my phone kept going off, and I thought, what is that? Then I went and checked, and it was a messenger group chat, and about 12 people having glasses of wine, and just having like a free-for-all, like it was some great big party. And it was just wonderful to jump in and say hi to everybody and kind of get
nice.
Yeah, so and that was inspiring for me. Like, how can I make these connections? How can I reach out to people? And there's just one more way.
Well, you're a people person, so you're going to have to be inspired to find those ways for sure.
Oh my God, it's like oxygen to me.
I know. Thanks, Scott.
No, thank you.
John, how are you being inspired these days? Are you writing your book yet?
Funny you say that, but I certainly have been inspired to begin the enormous task of getting things on the page. So yeah, on the personal level, certainly inspiration for me does come back to writing, and as a medium, just thinking about what Shri had said earlier about early life and, adversity in general, trauma and struggle, and just sort of the alchemical process almost that comes out of those changes and some of the beautiful things that come out of suffering and how we overcome them and how we see that reflected in art as we have throughout history. So for me as a medium, it's great. I even played around on the keyboards the other day and had some fun doing that. So, being inspired to create is something that's really, really important for me right now. It's difficult at times as it is. On the other level of inspiration, where I often will go to is sometimes people who, as leaders, whether political or spiritual or other geniuses throughout our history, the words that they've shared, the books that I've read, consistently messages that remind us either to stay present or experience gratitude or what have you. So that kind of inspiration for me is very much food for the soul in those times. I've been reading a lot of books, as you can imagine, over the years. And there's other elements, I think, of inspiration every day. I mean, as we're filtering what we're seeing in social media and everything else, we are seeing people being inspired to change and adapt to the situation. We talked a lot about connecting, and that's really important, but there's people in a lot of fear and others who are, maybe savvy and trying to shift their business models to an online process, which just for me reminds me of the human ability to adapt and survive. And in work and career is still important for all of us, and for those of us who are inclined or who are self-employed and can sort of shift into more of what this ever shifting economy looks like, then perhaps we're developing tools and skills that we didn't even realize we had, much less needed along the way. So I'm also on a very larger level inspired because once in a while you will hear someone really talk about the truth of our situation, which is, not only the pain and suffering, and yes, we're suffering, but beyond that, it's just a blip of the map in terms of the planet as an evolutionary being. And to the degrees that we're starting to reflect on, we didn't have all that great a world in some ways before the pandemic came along. Poverty, hunger, disease. I mean, we've had multiple viruses coming out of other countries, and now we're stopping. So even Tiger King, and I'll say it, at the end of that, like everyone, I was watching a train wreck, but I really felt for those animals, and that was all I cared. It's like, what happened with those animals? So I read something really inspiring that said that there were about, a 9 or 10 or 19 tigers that were rescued and basically brought out to a beautiful place where they could roam and, live the rest of their lives. The irony for me is the guy, or one of the guys responsible for their imprisonment, is now in prison. So sometimes I think like art imitates life, and sometimes we need to look at maybe the message that, the animal kingdom is showing us. And again, this whole virus is based on our mistreatment of animals. Without going hugely political, there's a lot of things that people don't want to say but the earth is revolting. And my only hope is that we will be inspired to just stop and listen and stop being so obsessed with our things and our money and our false sense of security in the world. It's on right now. And let's look at how we can change the world. Let's care about the planet as a whole. Let's put pressures in other countries to stop atrocities which are causing harm and risking all of our lives. Why do we have a dictatorship out there, that's basically allowed to bully the world because of its economic power? And then another dictatorship, US, it's a military power. You know what? We've all been trying to do our best to cope and pretend like that can't affect us. Well, guess what? So are we going to go back to normal, and we're going to just watch our commercials and have everyone tell us that life's back to normal, so go back to shopping? Is that where we're headed after all of this? Hopefully there'll be a significant few who will actually say, you know what? We need some real changes. We need some real changes. And if we can lobby governments in whatever shape or form, all of us need to wake up. I'm sorry, we need to wake up. We've been asleep thinking that status quo can go on forever, and it's not going to. And climate change is real. It's really happening. The threat of nuclear war is real. It's really happening. And while we might feel more comfortable and safe and should have every right to be happy in our daily lives, I think this is what we're living through right now is a big message. We are not separate. from it at all. We are not separate from the world, its problems, the global, the biological nature of the planet. And so that's where I'm hoping a real shift can take place. And sorry, I'm on my soapbox again.
No, I love your soapbox. I always love your soapbox.
No,
It's what makes this call even better. I totally agree with you. And I actually wrote a post on April 11th about the same thing. So you opened the door for me to segue into that. I honestly, I'm just going to say it. I don't think it's going to change much. I think the only thing that's going to change is that a lot of people are going to be more mindful, and there will be those of us who shift, but we all need money, and this world is driven by money and the economy. And unfortunately, if our leaders, the government, if they don't shift their mindset, then none of us will. And there's actually a really great article that I also shared today that is all about gaslighting. And, John and I did talk about this the other day, that we are all going through trauma. And I talked to the ladies on Saturday morning about this too, that don't push your trauma away, because this is trauma that we're all moving through. Whether you're coping with it better than somebody else or not, this is a traumatic experience. And so by ignoring it, you're blocking how you feel. And what is going to happen, I believe, and is what is in this article, is that when this passes, business and the economy is going to be gaslighting us to make us believe that we need things to feel better, because we will be in a form of PTSD, a form of, moving from trauma to recovery in some way. And so that is what we are programmed to do in general. I'm not saying you specifically, but in general, we have been programmed as globally to believe that we need things to make us feel better. And so there's already this talk about that we're all going to, once people get back going and the businesses are producing their products, and they will create new products to make you feel better. And that's the mindset that they're going to try to use on you. And so we're going to get right back into that pattern of, I need that in order to feel better. And in order to have that, I need to buy it. So therefore I need to work harder and longer and make more money. And the only way that will ever change is if the government changes their mandate within that. So it's all about, don't ever be mistaken. It's all about the economy. It's all about money. Governments are led and driven by money. And so it's a very nice mindset to think that the dolphins are going to be swimming in the canals forever, but it's not going to happen. Because as soon as the factories are back up and running, it's all going to change again. And I think it's lovely, and we've been given this awareness. But John, to your point, our levels of inspiration are going to wane again. Because we're going to be brought back, we're going to be pulled back into that. Now, in saying that, I feel like all the people on this call in particular are very mindful about that and aware, and we do recalibrate ourselves all the time, because we're constantly trying to shift out of that mindset, which is fabulous. But I mean, what's it going to be, the majority or the minority that are going to overtake this mindset or that mindset?
And maybe we'll expand our numbers in terms of just an evolution in consciousness.
Yes.
Maybe we're obviously in process of something, and an opportunity presented to really shift our perspectives and focus on, the interconnectedness of all of us and the planet.
Yes, and for sure that's very prevalent, and we're all being made aware of that. To your point about the animals, those wet markets, they're called, where the animals came from, they're all being reopened as we speak. There are over 400 of them in Asia, and they're all being reopened as we speak, and they're run by the mafia, and they're not going away anytime soon. So that is a very clear indication of a superpower that is not doing, in my mind, the right thing, because it's driven by money.
All money.
Angela, what are your thoughts? Thanks, John.
Oh, I every single one of you, I mean, we're all very similar with what we're, inspires us from others, from ourselves. And just to get, I'm I'm not going to go on too much because really I feel very similar to all of you. But one thing I noticed when you were talking, Diana, about the media and everything, I noticed just in the last week or two, the emails that are starting to come through now from the businesses again, where they seemed like they halted for a while. And my daughter, she is working right now here from home, and she's in a marketing position for a company in Toronto that delivers skincare. And when she first started, she still had the position, like, because really that's the only way the company is getting their product out and their information out, right?
Yeah.
Through the media. So she was very fortunate to be able to keep her job. Anyhow, I remember the first couple of weeks, she was saying, I feel very authentic, Mom. Here I am, I'm being told to write about, 30% off, free delivery, blah, 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 and all this. She goes, it just doesn't seem right. Like,
Wow.
this is crazy what's going on. And she actually had a client, she didn't know who this person was, but she came back to her and said, like, enough with this already. Like, they were just like, we're done. Like, we're done hearing about this is going to make you feel better during this pandemic and blah, 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 blah.
There
and she
you
goes,
go.
I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But then, so that was 2 or 3 weeks ago, but now it's starting to change again. It's almost like people are like, okay, I'm getting tired of this now.
Yeah, that's where we need to kick back,
to.
right? And
I
give our
need to
opinion.
kick back. Totally.
To John's point.
And
Yeah.
yeah, see it. It's all starting to come to a head again. I'm noticing today I was in the car because I had an hour drive, an hour back, and I was deleting all my emails, and I'm like, I don't want to list all the people, but all those companies that I usually just join their mailing list, all back there again, all there, where there was none for a while. But they're all just coming in.
They're all just coming back.
You know what?
Well, they're going to capitalize on it.
Totally. But I also agree too that the inspiration and just from the companies, they have to adapt. We have to adapt as, an environment here just to be able to stay afloat, really. So
well, they need to make money. I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that I do fear the same thing, that there's just going to be a few people that are going to shift. And like you said, for me, I'm constantly always going from, this in and out of feeling authentic sometimes and not, and knowing what brings me back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, again, all of us are similar, a sort of Dare to Share tribe. That's what we deal with every day. Is that floating in and out, in and out. And it is a little bit scary, actually, about what's going to happen, like with what's going to happen.
Yeah. Just thinking really about how that might pan out. Yeah. We've really been, as the Daring to Share team, we've really, I've talked a lot with Shri in particular and John about what that looks like for us, because we don't want to look like we're capitalizing on COVID. I mean, I definitely don't want to do that. So it is a fine line when I look at how is that going to play out? Because like these 10 women, for instance, in the journaling program, there is potential, although I didn't start it for that. The intention was just to support them for free because it's a free program. But, as we got into it just this last week, we talked about the fact that it could be a book. They could each end up with writing a story of 5,000 words, and it could be a book. So being very careful, though, about what that looks like. I mean, I don't want people to think that we're capitalizing on it. Not that, I'm definitely not a millionaire yet and will never be. But I do want to be careful about that, how that might present. And we've talked about that. And the fact that, then we also talked about that, wouldn't it be great then to do like an online sort of book launch with it, and these little videos that we're going to do of people sharing their COVID story, and possibly putting it in with our documentary, the long documentary that we're doing. So again, it's about being really careful. Now, not that we're going to make money on the documentary, because in fact, we have to find funds to fund it. But it's just interesting to because I'm always, like you said, Ange, like always keeping myself in check to make
Yeah.
sure that I am being authentic and that I'm not, because I am a businesswoman too. So I'm not opposed to making money, but I also want to be really careful that I'm not being seen as that person that's capitalizing on COVID.
Well, what happens too with that is that you're going to have the people that look at you and say, oh, she's, you know, she's taking advantage of the whole thing. But then you're going to have the other people who say that know you and know what the whole Dare to Share thing is, going to say, she's really passionate about this and this is why she's doing
Thank
this.
you.
Because during this time, much inspiration comes out of it. Like
Yeah.
there's going to be songs that are written. There are going to be books. There's painting. Everything
Yes.
has been inspired here. Crazy. I just spilled my water. Sorry. Getting all
You're getting all fired up. The Italian's coming out in you.
Yeah.
Italian over there.
It's true. That,
It is.
That is.
Yeah. So but I do want to be really careful about that and make sure, like, I'm not really, I was going to say on our videos that we're posting, I don't want to put things like, do you want to be an author and things like that right now, because people are actually coming to me to write their stories, which is fine because they're approaching me. I don't want to advertise. I don't want to, you know, John and I talked about, and I've talked to Shri about it too, about doing the same kind of program that we're doing on Saturday morning, but doing it that maybe Shri or John would facilitate as well online, a writing program, and charge for it at some point. But that's not happening right now because I just don't feel comfortable with asking people for money right now. I don't care how much it is. It just doesn't feel right for me right now.
Yeah.
So
I see that.
But I also understand, and I don't want to judge people who are selling things because they're trying to survive. Like I, for instance, will not get that CERB because I took a payment from an author in the last, and I will take another payment from an author in another month, and that's fine because I'm okay. But my son, for instance, he just started his business, so like his residuals at this point with a few clients that he has are so low, like you couldn't live off of them, but because of those he can't get the CERB or EI because he's a small business person. So there are definitely some glitches there, and I can understand why people are trying to make money in any way that they can because they need to feed their kids and their families, and you know it's hard. So I don't want to come off looking like I'm gaslighting. It's because that's actually what it is. I don't, you know, the word, you know, capitalizing on this, on COVID is not something I want to be known for.
So within that, though, I mean, you obviously have the intention, and you've made it clear here that that's not your intention to capitalize on it. But if something beautiful comes out of the work that we're all collaborating on, and if it is successful financially or any otherwise,
that's fabulous.
Isn't that beautiful? Like,
yes, and I wouldn't call that capitalizing.
No.
I would call that something being created out of inspiration.
Yes, and that's what we're doing.
And that is what we're doing. And you and I are creating something amazing, Shri. And I know it doesn't look like it's anytime soon, but when that thing comes out, holy shit. Like it's going to be so amazing.
Absolutely.
I wanted just to say something here. With the online journaling, that's going to be a wonderful experience. Like these people that are on this journaling journey, it's probably their catalyst to change. So they've signed up because there's something within them that says, I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be an amazing journey for them, and it'll be emotional, and they'll learn so much about themselves. So, and they may want to say, well, gee, I want to share my story because of the journey, and it is a trauma maybe for them right now. This is their catalyst, and then at the end of their 9 weeks, they may say, you know, I really want to have a voice and share my story. So
to inspire people.
So this isn't, you're not starting out with anything, but just giving people that want to find their voice and express themselves to be able to do that. I think it's a beautiful thing. And
Thank you.
There will be beautiful stories that come out of that.
Yeah, it's really, thanks Donna, because it is really interesting. This experience with them, I've only met with them once, but right from the very moment that we started the call, I recognized that it was something different, because the intention from the beginning is completely different from any other books that we've written. So whether this becomes a book or not, this was solely not for money, not for any other reason other than for self-discovery and to support them. And so the tone of the group is completely different from any other writing group I've ever worked with.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's inspiring.
That I was inspired, and I said to them, I know I'm leading you on this and I'm going to support you to journal and write, but I don't want you to look at me as being above you or anything like that, because you're actually inspiring me and supporting me through this. I clearly need to be connected to people and do this. Like, so, you know, to Scott's point about connection, inspiring him and being with people, this is my way of being with people. And it's what I do. Like, I love it. So I wanted them to know that like we're creating a group to support each other and not just ourselves.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Right.
I cut you off there, Angela. What were you going to say? Do you remember?
No, I was just saying that the whole idea is it's inspiration. That's what we're talking about. It's like this trauma that we're all going through is creating inspiration.
It really
in some
is.
way.
It really is. It's beautiful. Anyone want to add anything?
I think I just feel called to, I was really touched by John's passion and his words. And I really believe that during this time right now, we are seeing, and we're going to see more emerging leaders showing up in different ways and supporting a new direction, a new movement. I actually don't resonate with the defining us as a minority. I think that more and more people every day are waking up to their authentic selves, and that more and more people every day are seeing the cracks in the existing systems and structures. And that the longer we're actually in this, in some ways, and just hear me out, in some ways, there's benefit in it for it to be longer, because it's going to put people in a place where they see we have to change if we want to move forward. We can't
That's
go back
a good point.
the way things were. So, and the other point that I want to make is that the power is with the people. It's not with the corporations. It's not with the government. We forget that, and we're kind of like asleep to it, but we're waking up that we have the power. So if we want government to change, if we want systems and structures to change, then we just need to align with that, advocate for it, and demand that, you know what, this isn't acceptable. This is not how we want our global community to operate. And then those changes are going to start to happen and unfold. And I think in many ways they already are.
That's really well said. Thank you. I appreciate that. And as you're saying that, I'm inspired to say, what can Daring to Share do then? That's part of our movement. This is going to be part of our movement.
I think we're already doing it. I don't think we have to come up with another
well,
idea.
we need a bigger voice though. We need to, I agree we're doing it, but we need to do it in a louder voice. To Donna's point, like, let's have our voice. Maybe that is that chaos to calm book. I don't know.
I think it's a combination of the book, the workshops, the documentaries. The more that we do, the more exposure, even these conversations that we're recording and putting out into the world, it's just building the awareness of what we're doing. And more people, I see every day, because I'm one of the administrators, every day, more and more people are signing up to the Daring to Share Facebook groups.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So, you know, it's happening. It's unfolding as we speak.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's just been, the appearance of it is glacially slow, Diana, because, you know, when you and I had that conversation 3 years ago,
oh God,
you know, it was so little, it was so itty bitty, and we had no idea that we were going to grow to several hundred followers on our Facebook page, that we were going to have a YouTube channel, that you were going to put these amazing books out and get to bring all these incredible people together. because we've seen it over such a long period of
Oh
time.
my God. I was so tired then. I just wanted to go lie down.
Exactly. But, you know, when you kind of stop here and look back,
Yeah, I know. We've done a lot.
oh man.
I
We've
just,
accomplished
you know,
so much.
thanks, Scott. You just made me think though, too. So I don't know if I'm communicating what I want to say well enough. I think that we still hesitate with sharing what we really think. Like, John, thank you for getting on that soapbox. Because
Don't encourage.
No, I will encourage him because it's what I want to do. I can feel inside me that I want to say what I want to say.
Yeah,
I want to, and I've been pushing the limits on Facebook, and I am being really sort of diligent in holding back because sometimes I just want to say, you know, what the fuck is wrong with you people? But I of course don't want to say it that way. That's just my frustration coming out. But I do feel like I am expressing myself in a way that is diplomatic yet assertive. And I feel like we need to do that. Daring to share is daring to share. We can't be afraid of saying what we really think, as long as we're mindful about being respectful. But there is a fine line with that. So I don't want you to ever feel like you can't push that line a little bit. Because I do think that that's the piece of the movement, right? Because we are advocating for ourselves and we're advocating for humanity. So when you start, you know, I've heard you several times, John, say, you know, I don't want to get political or I don't want to talk, you know, push the animal thing. Talk about it. Like, it's important stuff that we need to talk about. That's the stuff that's real. So I don't ever want you to feel like you're, you know, that you're getting on a soapbox and you're not allowed to do that, because the soapbox is sometimes a good thing. I mean, think of all the people who we listen to. There are people who demand your attention. They're asking you to listen. They want you to listen, and it's for a reason. It's because they want to make a change for the better. We want to make a change for the better, and we have a lot to say. We're really smart. We do show up in an authentic way. Look at the people on your screen. We are authentic individuals. We love, we're kind, but we also get pissed off sometimes because of the way that we're being treated and other people are being treated. And it is our responsibility when we have a voice to use it. To Donna's point, you know, she spent a lot of her life not using her voice, and she has a lot to say. And she says it so eloquently and beautifully. And that's her way of doing it. And that's why she's on those blog posts, because people need to hear what she has to say, and she does it through her writing. We have different ways of saying it. I too, I'm on my soapbox right now. Like, that's what happens to me when I get into an event and I get up there, and I can guarantee you our events and me doing my keynote talks are going to be very different from now on.
Brilliant.
Because I'm not going to go to that same old go-to emotional and social intelligence. We get it. We're all there. We know that shit now. Now I want to make a difference. And I'm going to say what I need to say and what I believe. And you all have that, you know, daring to share is your platform to do that. Stir up the shit a little bit.
We have to shift now into another gear.
Exactly.
A lot of people get this, like you said, the whole intelligence, emotional intelligence, and mindfulness. Now it's like, okay, now we need to make a point here globally. And
exactly, Angela. You're so right. Like, it's one thing to say it. Now let's walk it. Let's really be it. Like, it's one thing to show up as authentic human beings within our community and all that, but let's really say what we think. People want to actually hear.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of the two, because what I hear is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Diana, but I really hear you inviting us to step into advocacy roles, to advocate what we really are passionate about and the change that we want to see. And I think the other side of it was what Donna had touched on earlier, where we also need to model it. We need to inspire that shared vision. 100%. We need to walk the walk and talk the talk. And when people see us stepping into those leadership roles and championing change, then that's going to give them permission to step into leadership roles. And
totally. And we need to give them that space.
Yeah.
That's what we do. for them, which is what we're going to be doing with the video calls and them sharing their stories and so on. So absolutely, Shri. So I guess what I'm saying, of course, always model authenticity. That, like, if I didn't do that, then I would be a hypocrite. Like, that is 100% the first thing that you need to do. When you start modeling, showing up as an authentic individual, you are an authentic leader. You are a daring to share person, for sure. But now it's also about influencing others to do that. And so it's not necessarily like John is passionate about the animals. That's what keeps coming up. I've heard you talk about them so many times in private conversations, and you've brought it up a couple of times on the calls. So talk about it freely. Yeah. Being authentic as you do it. So it's not about, I mean, of course there's judgment in there. You can't not critique when you're talking about something that political or that, significant. Like, yes, I am critiquing the wet markets and Asia, that they're advocating them to be open. There's no question I'm not judging that. But I'm okay with that.
Diana, what's really brilliant is, you and I have talked before about the social change component, much like what Shri was saying.
This is it.
We didn't go looking for that. We looked to be authentic, and then look at all the stories that came out, whether it was the care house, look at, what was revealed about domestic violence, about religion. I mean, it just came right out at us. And
it's because we were open to it, though.
Yeah, we created space. We did so without judgment. We just held it with compassion. Yeah. But now, as you say, that louder voice or more refined voice,
this is the next level.
Pick it up.
This is like Ange said, I'm giving you permission. So whatever it is that you are passionate about, speak to it. And I encourage you to do that on social media or wherever you feel comfortable doing it. But I want you to know that, especially in these recordings, you have a platform for it. This is going to be on social media. Like, this is being recorded. It's going to be posted. So if there's something you want to say, like what John did, say it. I mean, I think that we all spoke to inspiration, and, that's all nice. And I think it's lovely. But there is something deeper within inspiration that you have to say. I know each of you do. Mm. So, it may not be on this call, it may be another time, but when we go further into our calls, think about what that might be within what we're talking about.
I feel like inspiration is on a higher level. It's like, not preaching religion or anything, but you know how they talk so much about God and inspiration, and it's not saying that, but it's almost like what we're talking about is another platform of
divine.
Help me with the word, but sorry, I didn't hear that. Yeah, like we're reaching another level.
We are
being inspired by something out there, whether it's all of us
greater.
Together. Yeah, it's greater. It's
yes.
Crazy.
So that was brilliant. Like, I love that you just jumped right in there and shared that. Make sure that you don't feel like you need to preempt it with, now, I don't want to, it's okay, it's religion. I don't want to say anything against religion, because I can feel you wanting to do that. And maybe that's comfortable for you now. But I would love to see us get to a place where we can speak our truth and not worry about that. Mm-hmm. I know there are times when you want to be respectful. So, I mean, there's no guidebook to this. There's no rule book. So whatever makes you feel comfortable, and you will know, because there are times when you do need to sort of preempt something. But it's interesting how we go there, right? It's like, oh, yeah, I don't know if I can say that. But honestly,
I know,
like, you can't.
I know.
Say.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I know for me, I'm not going to be this person who's going to be like vocal and in somebody's face, and
No. But you do it in your writing.
But I do it in my writing. But I come from a place of, like, if I can inspire or just help people just to come from a place of love, compassion, and caring, that has always been my purpose in life.
Yes.
Through the last 15 years, through all this, what I've journeyed through, my sense of purpose has always been is to help that person who, as in your writing group, have that little light within them saying, oh, I might be able to do this.
Right. So as a member of a community watching this call, I would right now be saying, well, how do you do that? tell me how to do that, because I struggle with that. There's somebody out there that's going to watch this recording and is going to go, oh my God, she moves from loving kindness. That's so beautiful. I love what she's saying. How the hell do I do that?
It was in my reflection this week that I had sent to you called Lost to Calm.
Yes.
It was.
That's going to be posted.
It's the self-care. It's
yes,
spending time with yourself and really letting yourself feel and let it out. And then there's empowerment in that.
Beautiful. And look at, you just did it with your voice. So it's not to say that you can't.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing from Donna is she's not that person to get up on the soapbox and be so vocal and assertive about it, but you do have something to say. And you just said
yes.
it.
Yes.
Yes. So everybody needs to just find their way of doing it. I'm just giving you permission and a place to do it. And I'm telling you that it's okay to share how you feel and what you think.
It's
and
interesting
that has
because
always been daring to share. Sorry, Ange?
no, it's just interesting, like what Donna was saying. She says, well, I'm not the person to, like we were talking about standing on soapboxes and so forth. I'm just being who I'm being. And it's true, because I do have a louder voice, like just in general. But so many of my friends and people I meet, they'll just say to me, like, how do you do that? And I'll go, what do you mean? And they go, like, how are you being like who you are? And I'm like, well, it's just who I am. Like so for me, my example is just who I am and how I show up and what I do in a day. For me, I just feel, I'm not trying to like preach and say, do this, do that. But for me, it's just, I've always sort of been this person, but there was a lot of times that I was very fearful. And I do have that inner critic that still pops in every now and then, but Rob will say, you just get what you get with Ange. Like, it just comes out and that's what it is.
And I think that I know that a big part of that, because I know you for a long time, is, and I think that it's that way with most people, is that the more that you discover about yourself and know who you are as that authentic being and your best self, you have more confidence to speak your truth.
Yeah.
And it's not about telling people how to do or how to be or what to do. It's just about sharing how you feel about something. And we will get people who don't resonate with all or each of us, but they'll resonate with someone else. And that's okay. And that's what we advocate as well, is that you're allowed to be who you are and share what you think. And it's okay. Someone will resonate with you and some won't. That's the beauty of it.
Well, it's like our chapters, right? It's
exactly. Yes. And, we have people with the chapters that I've had comments on, I didn't resonate with that at all. Actually, one of the most controversial is Scott's story. And the fact that, he wasn't moving from a place of integrity, and how upset a lot of people were about that. And, we've had those conversations with those people. And in the end, it was all about their fear about the fact that he wasn't perfect, but he was okay to share it. And so that was not about Scott. That was about them. And so just having those conversations allowed them to discover that they had that fear in themselves. Mm-hmm. And so that they needed to work on that. Mm-hmm. So, that's another piece of, I've had to overcome that, is the judgment that some people share. And understanding that, well, first of all, sometimes judgment is also a good thing to listen to, because maybe I am coming off as whatever. Maybe I'm not coming out, like showing up as my authentic self. And believe me, there have been many moments in my life that I've done that I'm not very proud of. So, I'm not perfect, and I have had moments where I haven't been showing up authentic. So that's about, if someone is judging me, I always take a moment to step back and think about what they're saying to me, because maybe they're actually right. Maybe there's truth in that. It's like your inner critic, you listen to your inner critic. She's not always wrong. She's sometimes speaking the truth. So, and then just assessing that, is it true or is it not? If I don't feel like what they're saying is true, then I'll just mosey along and keep being who I am. If I feel like what they're saying is true, then I can take a moment to step back and learn from that and show up in a different way. So judgment's not necessarily a bad thing.
No,
Anyway, this is becoming a coaching session, which I didn't want it to be, but
One of the reasons that I was initially drawn to you, Diana, and the Daring to Share work is that it goes back to the word for today, inspiration. And I think as leaders, we can either create change through motivation or inspiration. And when I think of motivation, I relate that word more to fear-based. We motivate people to create change because they want to aspire to this, or they're not quite adding up to this or equaling this. But when we inspire out of love and through authenticity.
yes,
And
beautiful.
and I think that just sums up what we're all doing as individually
sum it up.
and as a Daring to Share community. We're inspiring people.
Yes, we are. And I think we can end the call on that note, because I feel like we can talk all day long and people may not get to the end of this. So this will be posted tomorrow, Tuesday, April the 14th. And we're going to shift a little bit from these, we'll still do these calls at the beginning of the week on the Mondays, but starting this Friday, I'll be posting my video about my story going through the COVID process. And I'll be posting, it'll be about 10 minutes. And it'll just be me on a video sharing my story like we do at the events and in our chapters, but shorter version. And we'll have somebody from either the community or the authors doing that every Friday that'll be posted. So that'll be super exciting. I feel like those videos will be really inspirational.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that, of what we're working towards?
Sure. So that's going to be, well, maybe, do you want to do that?
Sure. One of the things that our group decided to do here, rather than having these collective calls twice a week, we wanted to start creating a platform for people to be able to share their stories of their COVID experience. We want to hear about the struggles and the trials and tribulations, but we also want to hear how you're navigating your way through that to find joy, bliss, love, and inspiration. So we're going to kind of set the tone for it, set the bar, if you will. Diana's going to be the first storyteller. And eventually we're going to be rolling out a platform where people will be able to submit their own videos to the Daring to Share community, where we will be posting and sharing anyone and everybody's videos, and hopefully building some momentum and getting really how the power of storytelling can support us through this experience.
Beautiful. And there is also the opportunity, if the storytellers want, if they agree, to have some of their pieces of their video, little bites in our documentary. Yeah, very good. Okay, well, thank you so much. And we will see you again with my video being posted this coming Friday. Thanks, everybody. Take good care.
Thank you. Bye.
Nice
Bye.
connecting. Love
See
you.
you later.
Bye.